My racist teacher said she's surprised I passed the exam because that's unusual for my kind, so I'm getting her fired. So I have a teacher who is pretty racist, and her name is Mrs. White. I think Mrs. White has it out for black people specifically, and instances such as to unalive a mockingbird come to mind. I was expecting her to say the N-word when she came across it while reading it because it's in the book, but I never expected her to roll the R and say the word with as much enthusiasm as she does. Of course this kind of caught my attention as I'm the only black person in the class, so I asked her why she says this word with such tenacity. She responded saying she is only doing due diligence to the emotion in which the book was written and this might require her to say the word with more of an oomph than she normally would. Excuse me, normally would. Anyway, that was my first encounter with Mrs. White, and our further encounters only kept reassuring me she was indeed racist. She likes to often go on tangents about her personal life, like most teachers do, and once when talking about her recent honeymoon with her husband, she claimed they went to Sweden so as not to be surrounded by criminals here in America. Whilst I understand this may have just been weirdly phrased and by itself the sentence may not sound racist, but the fact she glanced in my direction when she said criminals made me feel very uncomfortable. Well, about a week ago we took an in-class exam on the book we had spent the past few months read, To Unalive a Mockingbird, and I studied my butt off for this test. The week the test was announced, Mrs. White went around the classroom stating that when the test comes around, students shall not shy away from writing the N-word on the test, and if they censor the word, she will deduct marks for authenticity. This rubbed me the wrong way yet again, and I was very convinced that she was indeed a racist. Well, the test itself went extremely well. And I was happy with the study I had done. Yesterday was the day I got my results, and I got a 83, which was a very high mark. Mrs. White was clearly not expecting this as she asked me to stay back after class. I did as I was told, and the first thing I was met with was accusations of cheating and her telling me to confess to cheating on the test. After repeatedly telling her I did not copy off anyone, she dropped it. She then started laughing to herself, and I asked her what was so funny. She told me that sometimes she surprises herself with how good she is at her job. I asked her what she meant by that, and she said that she is such a good teacher she can even get me to obtain a high grade, which is very unusual for my kind, as she put it. I quickly excused myself after that. I spent all night last night thinking about that and how she viewed me in such an inferior light purely because I was black. So I've made a plan to catch her out, and the next time I have her for class I will ask to talk to her, then secretly record the conversation and try to pry as much racist stuff as I can out of her.